right, everybody. I don't know about you, but my cheeks are starting to hurt from all the smiling that I'm doing. And it doesn't stop here because I'm excited to welcome our next guests. We have two absolute gurus of community here to discuss community launches and to share their comprehensive guide to getting your community off the ground. In this very special live recording of the In Before the Lock podcast, our next speakers will walk you through the finer points of launching a new community at scale using their free downloadable community launch guide as a reference point. At the risk of aging them, our speakers have a combined 40 plus years building community and are true pioneers in this industry. Please welcome Erica Kuhl and Brian Oblinger.
Hey, thanks, Beth. That was great. All right. Well, here we are. Glad to see everybody's faces in the chat anyway, as best as we can do here. So if you haven't listened to the show before, Eric and I host this podcast. We post episodes every couple of weeks, and we talk about community. And we tend to dive really deep into community topics, like really, really, really deep. And so this is going to be our biggest challenge yet, because Eric and I have never done anything in 25 minutes in our entire life. So we're going to try to get you as much value as we can here in the time that we have, and really hope to drive that home for you. So I put a link in the chat. So what we're going to talk about today is our community launch guide. And so our thought process here was that we wanted to give you as much value as we could in the time we had. And for us, what that means is showing you our launch guide. So if you go to ITB4, you know what? I should get the URL right next time, right, Erica? So it's ib4tl.fm/launch, and that'll get you to the launch guide. And this is what we're going to talk about today. And so this is a great guide that we created that will help you take your community to the next level. If you have one, there's a bunch of great stuff. Or if you're here and you're trying to learn about communities and what you're going to do, then this is the great session for you, right, Erica?
It's perfect. This is a comprehensive guide, so let's get going.
All right. So first of all, what is this guide, right? It's from us to you. It's free. It's a gift. There's no strings attached. We wanted to create something super comprehensive that you can use to take like I said before, take your community to the next level. And it's really based on our experience. So Beth introduced us at the top here and said, 40 years of combined experience. And so we thought we would just do like this massive brain dump into one, single document. It's 45 pages long. That you can use to do what we've done, and there's no secrets here. We've given you everything that we know, and so we're super excited about that.
And of course, I started doing community when I was 12, so I'm really not that old. So
Definitely, definitely not.
No, but it's true. This guide is amazing, and I put it to the test already. If you don't know, I am out on my own now, working with a number of really amazing clients, and just to keep myself on track and to make certain that I'm checking and I'm checking all the boxes that I want. I've gone and referenced the guide a couple of times, and it really works. And you can use it from top to bottom, or you can jump into different pieces and extrapolate it and customize it. And it's really just pretty incredible. So I can say it's tried and true and tested.
Yeah, definitely. So, what is it not, right? Before we get into it, I just want to point out before we get deep into this thing, what it's not is it's not the only way to launch a community, right? There's tons of great stuff in here, and we think that it'll really be helpful. But ultimately, take it, copy it, steal it, do whatever you want to it, whatever's going to help you best. And that's really what it is. This isn't the only way to launch a community for sure.
Right. I mean, it's everything has to be before you jump in. Just add your own flair, use it as a guide, and customize it as you will. It's perfect.
Yep. So I see a bunch of people joining in the doc, which is great. And so if you're listening to this in podcast form later on, definitely hit the link in the show notes, and you can check that out. So what we're going to do with the time that we have left is we're going to go through some of the parts of the doc. There's so much here. We could spend hours, but we're going to go through the parts of the doc that we think, we want to highlight for you and talk through kind of the main points. So like I said before, it's 45 pages. It's crazy comprehensive. There's a lot of stuff there. But let's start, Erica, with the timeline, because I think that's the one question that you and I get all the time is, what should I expect? How long should it take me to launch a community? And so for those of you in the doc taking a look at it, scroll down to the timeline overview there, and you'll see the waterfall chart. Now, what this is based on is this really based on my experience and a little bit of Erica's as well. So the last 2 communities I've launched, I've done them roughly in a 20-ish week time frame. And so that's what you see here. Your mileage is almost certainly going to vary. Some of these things will be longer, some will be shorter. And there's a lot of assumptions baked in here. A lot of these are assumptions from my perspective of, what do I assume I know and don't know, and what do I need to do? So, your mileage will vary there. But the cool part about it is it's in this really great checklist format, as is most of the document, so that you don't have to, like wade through this stuff and guess. You can just go down the checklist bit by bit and follow along, and that way you'll be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, and I find that it's really, really great with the timeline in particular to set great expectations with a lot of stakeholders, because we definitely know that community is super cross-functional, and if it isn't, it should be. And it's hard to keep everybody on track, and there's a lot of steps in the process. So I find that this is a great graphic and a great timeline to put a really great expectation of where you are in the process and where you still have to go. And it really, for me, is just it shows the interdependencies as well. So you can say, if all things go perfectly, this is the timeline. But we all know that all things don't go perfectly. So you can say—
What? They don't?
Yeah, I know. It's so surprising. Well, in every community I launch, it all goes perfectly. Maybe not for you, but
oh, of course.
Yeah, right. But for me, it's a good way to say, okay, here it is, all perfect on the screen, and here we are. But if things shift or change, or if stakeholders move or get priorities change, then this has to shift. So I find that it's such a great way of telling everybody where you are and where you're going and what will have to shift and change.
Yep. Yeah. And then each week we've broken it down by each week, right? So you have, discovery, strategy, vendor selection. I mean, every bit of this is broken down into a really digestible, just copy it and scroll and check these things off as you do them. So that's great. The timeline's awesome. Let's, you mentioned the people, Eric. I think that's a perfect segue to another section we want to talk about, which is just a little bit further down below right down below the timeline here in the doc. And this section is really all about, just like what you said, who are the people you need to talk to? What is their interest, or what is their role in this whole thing? And really, like, how are you going to connect with them? How are you going to onboard with them? What does that look like? And so this section really goes through pretty much every department that can exist in most companies, from IT to legal to marketing to product to social, on and on and on. And so we've tried to spell those out, and we've also given you some really good, here's who you're trying to talk to, but what are the desired outcomes of the conversations you're having, and how do you prepare for them, and how do you, set up a kickoff meeting? What does the agenda look like? And so hopefully this shepherds people all the way through that process, where they can connect with the right people, know exactly what questions to ask, what outcomes to come away with, and then they can just, go rock and roll right from there.
I think a lot of times when you look at this list, you don't even know out the gate why those individuals need to be on the list, and they don't even know why they need to be on the list. So what I love about how this has been documented is it with those questions, it's an opportunity for education. It's an opportunity to meet with these organizations and share with them the value of community and what they're going to expect to get from community. And it drives alignment. So just like right away, you have everybody starting to march to the same drum. So I really love this section to list out all of it. And it also helps you not forget a certain critical function. So there's so many parts of the organization, and you might not, in your mind, if you're getting new with community started, you might not know why certain areas are important. So we've just thrown them all in there, and that way you don't forget anyone in this process.
Yeah, my favorite one I'll just point to is the legal section.
Yeah.
Because I think that this is a skill that, look, most of us don't have, right? We're not legal people. We don't talk to legal often. So I put some extra love and care into that particular section of how to talk to legal, and you'll probably find some fun in there when you read through that one. But hopefully this gets people going and thinking about like you said, who they need to talk to. And I think that's a huge, part of all of this, because so much is just kind of unknowns until someone tells you, and that's the goal here. So.
And I think with legal, if I could just add on one more point with legal, that's one of those things where they might not know immediately why you're contacting them. But for me, it's better early, the better, not so they can get you derailed, but rather deal with it head on than getting all the way down through the process and having there be a stopping point. So gaining their insight right away, and that's probably the biggest education that you're going to need to do, because it's a little scary sometimes to legal. Community can be a little scary, so best to just start the education process, because you're going to have to revisit it as you go.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part is in the people section here, when you look through all of the different types of people and what they want. None of this should be adversarial, right? I think a lot of times we tend to look at this and think, oh no, I have to go talk to marketing, or I have to go talk to legal, or, whoever it is that you fear talking to. And the reality is that, they're just people, and, they have things that they're interested in, that they need. And really the guide here is meant to kind of help you understand where's our common ground? What are the things we need to work together on, or what could we work together on? And hopefully that kind of gets you out of this, adversarial thing, and that you're more focused on really, collaboration and partnership with all these different folks. So a huge part of building a great community, for sure.
Perfect.
What about programs, Erica? Let's scroll down a little bit with all of the folks in the doc here to the programs area. Let's talk a little bit about this part. I mean, I think a lot of people think of launching a community from a technical standpoint in getting the platform up and doing all of those things, which we'll maybe talk about here in a minute. But really, the bulk of building a community is actually in the programs that you do to support your community, right?
Right. I mean, I say this all the time, that technology is super important, but the programs and the guidelines and all those elements just really make a community a safe place. It make a community focused, and it really drives the value. So I think that, we have dumped the kitchen sink into this guide. And by we, I mean Brian. And he's done an incredible job of listing out all of it. But just to go back to our first point, this is yours to pick and choose. May not be doing every one of these programs that we have listed in this guide, but it's just great to see all the different things you want to think about, how you want to process through them, and then the value you're going to get from them. So you can choose to do a subset of these, but it's important to see that these programs really is what's going to bring your community to life.
Yeah, for sure. I think, for me, I can't imagine launching a community without doing all of these, but that's just, my speed. But I think you're right that I think it's a good point to bring up, that we don't want people to look at this and get overwhelmed and think, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do this. There's just too much, and I'm only one person, or we're only two people, or whatever the case is. Like anything else, prioritize, right? Look at this, see what you think you can do now, what you can do later. And then to your point, Erica, each one of these programs there is so much here. And really what this part of the document does is just get you thinking about, oh, that's what new member onboarding might look like, or that's what I need to think about when it comes to roles and permissions. And a lot of these topics we've actually, dived headfirst into on previous episodes of the show. So if you're looking for the super, hour and a half long deep dive on each of these, where we tell you exactly how to do it from start to finish, you can check that out. But you're right that, there's a lot here. And I think it's good to set expectations about what's realistic, right, for most endeavors around community here. But this should be a great starting point.
Yeah, I've been talking a lot about this concept, like where to start, where do you begin? Do you have to do all the things? And I'm very accustomed, because I come from a product background, for talking about MVP, not MVP program, but like MVP minimum viable. And now I've just coined a new term because this really is coming up a lot. And I don't know if it's the time that we're in, but I've coined the term MVC, which is minimum viable community. And it doesn't mean you cut corners. You can't cut corners. You still have to set strategy, and you still have to align goals, and you still have to staff it appropriately and write all the governance and follow a lot of these steps in this guide. But there is a place to start, and you want to start strong. And so minimum viable community can be a really important way to think about phasing an approach.
You heard it here first, folks. MVC. Erica dropping new words and phraseology here on the show.
We'll add it to our glossary of terms on our site.
Yeah, we have a glossary. Yeah, we should. So if you don't know, folks, on our site over there, we have a industry terms glossary where we've put what we think our definitions of these are. So we'll have to add MVC just for Erica there. Awesome.
And for those of you that know me well, I make up terms quite often. This is a thing that I do.
It's ongoing, I'll just say.
Yeah, it is.
Awesome. Well, let's see here. So we still got a little bit of time left. Let's talk about technology, Erica. Ooh, yeah. Scary technology, right? So I think one of the things that's interesting here, I'm kind of taking a look at this as I talk here, is that I think most people get into community because they love people, and they love community, and they love the interaction and the engagement, and they're not necessarily technical people by definition, right?
Right.
And so what we wanted to do here is just put together a list of, here are the things typically in most community launches from a technical standpoint that you should be thinking about. I think most of these you're going to have to do. I don't know that you can really skip too many of these, but I don't want to go too deep into each of these, but I think this is a good list, because I think a lot of people just don't know, like, oh, I have to get a CNAME, and I have to work with IT on that, and I have to get an SSL certificate, and that's another thing you'll work with IT on. So I think it's good for people to have this kind of overview of, here's from a technical standpoint, the things that you should think about and who to go talk to work on them with.
Yeah, and I can tell you how helpful this is. This is one of the things that I definitely refer to, because I wouldn't say that this has been a successful element of my career launches or community launches in the past. And not everybody has the luxury of having a team, a tech team alongside of them. So you have to rely on other organizations, and they're stacked up with a million things that they have to do. So the more that you can use this guide and have a clear perspective and a clear list of things that you need to do, it's going to make working with that organization so much better. Because really, working with IT can, it's fraught with lots of things, and you really are going to be challenged to prioritize. So this just says, I got this covered. These are the things. Here's the list, and let's go. So not to pretend that you know how to do them, but just at least to go in with an educated point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, you know what, Erica, we did something here today that is amazing, which is we got through our agenda with 8 minutes to spare. This is a miracle of all miracle kind. So I think what we should do now is let's look at the chat here. So I see some questions we should answer. Let's do that. Yeah. Some of these are actually answered in the guide as well. So we'll do our best to answer that. I got this bug flying around in my face here. So let's see here. So Priya asked, what are key success metrics to track for a community engagement, member referrals, or other? This might have been for one of the other sessions, but I will say that in the doc here, we have a section under programs. So if you look under programs and then measurement, we detailed what we think a good framework and methodology and requirements are for measuring your community. And so this is something we talked about on a past episode, or actually I think we did 2 episodes on measurement. Mm-hmm. But I think it all starts with your goals, right, Erica?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This is the question that I think maybe, besides where should community live, this is the next question that I get asked most frequently. And you want to do a lot of things, and I know that's not what we're necessarily talking about, but when you think about the measurements, you want to be, you want to align them to your goals, and you want to be realistic and what you can and what you should measure in the first, right out the gate launch and then down the line. So I just can't stress enough that you don't want to set yourself up for failure and promise that you're going to see revenue impact on the first, 2 months of launching the community. So let's just be real. So think about all the different kinds of metrics that you're going to do, including health metrics, including success along the way, and then the long-term hypotheses metrics as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Another question in the chat. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there something else, Erica?
Nope, that was it.
All right. This is the stuff that we edit out of the show of you and I stepping on each other, but can't do it in the live deal. So let's see here. A question in the Q&A from Juan Garza, our good friend Juan, of Stack Overflow fame, asked, in your experience, which internal org team would you want to win over first as you build your community? Erica, take it away.
Oh, goodness gracious. That's a great question. Oh, gosh. I would say legal. I mean, I got to go with legal. I have had a touchy past with legal, and I kind of alluded to it by having to educate. I really feel like what we do in community is not in a book right now that anyone studies in any sort of legal background. And so everything that you do is going to challenge the world in which they live in. And so it takes time to really get that going. So I would start that early, and I would do it often, because I've been so close to being shut down by legal over the course of my career in community for reasons that don't make sense, but they just are outside of a book. And I'm not saying that everybody that's in the legal background only lives in a book, but that's kind of what you have law for. And so, but we have to evolve, and we have to constantly show value and prove it multiple times. So I'd go with them first. I don't know. What about you, Brian?
Well, I'm gonna go. I think you're right, but I'm gonna go with an episode title that we did recently, which was "Close to the Money," right, where we talked about different groups of people, and I think my opinion is always find out who has the money and who makes the decisions, and go win them over first, right? Just as a matter of course, I think that's always a solid plan.
Yeah, I might really could go prioritize through a lot of other ones, but I think you're absolutely right on that too. I also think that it's about trying to find the group that really wants to be on this journey with you and win them over and get them as your internal advocate, because they're going to be the ones, because you can't be everywhere defending yourself all the time. So building yourself a little army of advocates internally that can get on board with it is also extremely beneficial.
Yep. Another question here. Let's keep rolling. We still got a few minutes, so we'll answer as many as we can before Beth steps back in here. So Carol asks, do you have recommendations for role staffing a new community? How much should you bring in? How much should you bring in other company employees? It's a good question, Carol. I think Eric and I talked about this on 2 or 3 episodes ago at length, and it's in the guide here as well, in thinking about, who do you need from a cross-functional standpoint in your company that needs to participate in this. And there's a whole section actually in the guide about this. The answer is, I think, all of them, right? Like the best chance of success you're going to have is if you include as many people as possible, and you're able to articulate to them, here's what community is in the context of your organization. Here's why you should be involved in it. Here's why it's important, and here's what we need for you to be successful. And I think if you can answer those questions together as a group of people, then you're going to be good to go. Now, I'll also say, kind of on the staffing part, and we've talked about this on a couple episodes too. Like, I personally generally like to have one person who's a community manager, someone that's done that for a living, and then I like to go find someone inside of the company that has done this, for a while at the company, and they know where all the content is, and the marriage of that community professional and the person who has the institutional knowledge and can write content is usually a great way to staff a brand new community. Yeah,
I think you've said that knows where the bodies are buried. I felt like you were going to say that. You wanted to say that, but you didn't.
I wanted to say it. I didn't.
I know. I said it for you. Yeah, I think this is such a great question, and this is a common thing that comes up in it. At a bare minimum, obviously, it's community manager. Don't even bother if you don't have anyone that's going to manage this, because it's just going to be a train wreck from the very beginning. So absolutely that, and I think content is your next obvious place. And I'm just so accustomed to this distributed model. I'm so accustomed to having this be like the community is the center of excellence, but proving out the value across the organization and then getting them on board, because you can't possibly know everything you need to know at the company. That's what you have other parts of the organization for. So really I'm just a huge fan of a hub and spoke model. So that takes time, but it also is a way to create the most rich and scalable type of community.
Yeah. Yep. Our friend Juan is back with another question. It's probably the last one we're going to get to. And maybe I'll make this interesting for you, Erica. So his question is there an X factor that a community manager should possess to increase chances of a successful launch? In 3 words or less, Erica, what X factor would you hope that people have?
Empathy.
Put you on the spot a little.
Yeah. Empathy and thick skin. Can that all be one word? Thick skin.
It's hyphenated. You're good to go.
Okay. And organized.
There you go. I was going to say empathy is my single word. I think like we focus on the process and being organized and process driven, and, understanding the methodology is important. But I think obviously if you're not an empathetic person, I'm not sure, you should be launching communities typically, right? Full of people. Yeah. So, all great questions. We got about 30 seconds left here. I saw some people in the chat asking about the shirts. You can go to ib4tl.fm/shirts, or just go to our site and you can find them there. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, Maria Agniva is in the chat. So if you don't know Maria, you should go to everyoneknowsmaria.com. That's a great website. You'll find out all about Maria. Anything else, Erica, that we missed with the last second here?
Gosh, no, just go get your cool shirts. Look at mine.
Go get your shirts. Go get the guide. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We really appreciate it. We love you all, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you.